What would you sacrifice to protect the one thing you love most? And what if that thing turned out to be a person? This is a story about two people who thought they were fighting over a building, but were really fighting their way back to life, and it shows that waiting for the right moment, even when it breaks you, can be the greatest act of love. The elevator doors open and Claire Ashford is already holding the resignation letter she will never send. It is a Tuesday in November 2019, and the city of Boston is the color of old pewter outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of Meridian Capital Group. She is 34 years old, Senior Acquisitions Director, and she has exactly 6 days to close the deal that will either save her division or end her career. The property is a 4-story mixed-use building on Newbury Street, assessed at $4.2 million, sitting idle since the estate of Edward Ashford, her father, entered probate 8 months ago. The irony is not lost on her. She is the one who has to sell it. The buyer's representative arrives 12 minutes late, which already tells her something. Then the man himself walks in and tells her everything else. Daniel Voss is 40 years old, co-founder of Voss Urban Development, with a reputation for converting undervalued historic properties into profitable boutique spaces. He is broad-shouldered and unhurried in the way of someone who has learned that urgency is a negotiating weakness. He shakes her hand and his grip is firm but not performative. She notices his left hand. No ring. She notices that she noticed, and files it away like a problem she will deal with later. They sit across from each other in the glass conference room and the negotiation begins the way all negotiations do, with both parties pretending they have more options than they do. Claire presents the comps. Daniel questions the structural assessment. She defends it. He smiles, not unkindly, and says he would like to arrange a walkthrough before the week is out. She says Thursday. He says Wednesday. They agree on Thursday. She does not tell him that the building has been in her family for 31 years. She does not tell him that her father opened his first bookshop on the ground floor, or that she spent every Saturday of her childhood shelving returns and reading behind the counter. She does not tell him that selling it feels like signing a document that officially declares her father gone in a way that the funeral somehow did not. She keeps her voice level and her posture closed, and she walks him to the elevator at the end of the meeting and watches the doors close over his face, which is, she thinks, a very unfortunate face for a man she needs to regard as a transaction. Wednesday, she finds an excuse to drive past the building alone. She sits in her car across the street in the November dark and looks at the second-floor windows where her father's office used to be, and she cries for exactly 4 minutes. Which is the amount of time she allows herself since she read somewhere that grief needs limits, or it will take everything. Then she drives home. The Thursday walkthrough changes something she did not plan to change. Daniel moves through the building quietly, touching the original crown molding with one hand, reading the room the way a person reads a book they already love. He asks her how long the bookshop operated. She says 31 years. He asks what happened to the inventory. She says the family donated most of it, kept some. He nods and does not push. But he stops at the back staircase, at the small painted mural her father commissioned in 1998, a map of imaginary places with tiny handwritten labels, Neverland, Narnia, the Shire, and he stands there for a long moment. It was his idea, she hears herself say. He believed that children should understand that stories have geography. Daniel looks at her then, not the way a buyer looks at a seller, but the way a person looks at another person when they realize they are in unexpected company. He says, I am going to be honest with you about something. She braces. He says, I grew up 3 blocks from here. I used to come into this shop every weekend when I was 11 years old. Your father let me read without buying. He never once asked me to leave. She does not speak for a moment. She says, he did that for a lot of kids. I know, Daniel says. I became a developer because of buildings like this one. Because I understood early that a place can hold a life inside it. She looks away from him at the mural and feels the grief rise and settle in a different configuration, the way furniture rearranges itself in a room that suddenly has a window where there was a wall. They have dinner that evening, nominally to discuss the inspection timeline, actually because neither of them is ready to leave the building yet. Over pasta and a bottle of wine neither of them finishes. She learns that he built his first project in 2009 with a loan from his mother, that he nearly lost the company in 2015 when a partnership collapsed, that he has been rebuilding slowly ever since. She tells him about the 8 months of probate, about her mother relocating to Portland, about the way she has been sleeping 4 hours a night, and calling it insomnia when it is actually just guilt. He asks her why guilt. She says, because I am the one selling it. He says, or you are the one honoring it by making sure it goes to someone who will treat it right. She does not cry. She is grateful. They are standing on the sidewalk outside the restaurant when he says he would like to see her again, outside of the negotiation. She says that would be a conflict of interest. He says, I know. She says, ask me again in 7 days. He says, all right. They part in opposite directions, and she walks 2 full blocks before she allows herself to smile. The contract is scheduled for signing the following Wednesday. On Monday morning, Claire receives a call from the estate attorney. There is a complication. A notation in her father's final amendment to his will, written in the last 3 months of his life and not discovered until now, expresses a wish that if the building is ever sold, it be offered first to a non-profit organization, and if no non-profit can be identified within 90 days, then the proceeds be distributed between a literacy foundation and a college scholarship fund, with only a modest sum going to the estate. It is not a legal obligation. It is a moral one. And it rewrites everything. Claire sits very still in her office with the phone in her hand after the call ends. She thinks about the fact that her father spent 31 years making room for people who needed it, that he let a boy from 3 blocks away read for free every weekend, that he believed in geography of the imagination. She thinks about what it means that she has been treating this sale as a career move, as a transaction, as a deadline to survive. She thinks about Daniel. She calls him. She tells him what she has found. She tells him she needs to pause the signing, that she intends to spend the remaining days of the window contacting nonprofits to offer them first rights. She tells him she is sorry. He is quiet for a moment. Then he says, do not apologize. She hears something in his voice that is not disappointment. It is recognition. She spends the next 3 days making calls, writing proposals, sending emails that she does not expect to produce results in 72 hours. Daniel sends her, on Tuesday morning, a list of 6 nonprofit organizations with a note that says, thought these might be worth contacting. I know their directors. And she realizes he had already been thinking about it before she called him. He had already known, somehow, what the right answer was. On Tuesday afternoon, a literary nonprofit called Open Pages Boston responds. They are small, newly incorporated, looking for a permanent home. They can meet Wednesday morning. The meeting takes 2 hours. By the end of it, the terms are clear. The estate will sell the building to Open Pages Boston at a reduced rate, the difference going into the scholarship fund her father had specified, with a clause that the original mural be preserved in perpetuity. It is not the deal that saves Claire's division. It is not the deal her managing director had wanted. She calls him from the parking garage and resigns before he can reconsider her future. She stands in the empty garage with the phone in her hand and feels, unexpectedly, entirely clear. Daniel is waiting outside the building when she arrives to drop off the documents. He is holding 2 coffees and he has the expression of a man who has rehearsed something and is deciding whether to say it. She tells him she resigned. He says he knows that she had mentioned her director's name once and he had a mutual contact. He says, I also made a decision. She waits. He says that Voss Urban Development is going to co-fund the building renovation for Open Pages Boston, at no profit, as a community investment project. He says, "I did not become a developer to own things. I became one to protect them." She looks at him in the November light, which has changed since the first Tuesday, which is now something closer to golden pewter, and she thinks that she has spent 8 months trying to grieve correctly, trying to honor her father through the right channels and the right procedures, and it turns out the most honest thing she has done is stand in a stairwell next to a man who remembered being 11 years old and loved. She says, "You still owe me a question." He says, "Will you have dinner with me tonight? With no agenda and no timeline and no conflict of interest." She says yes. That evening, over dinner, they talk until the restaurant empties around them. She tells him about the map of imaginary places and why her father believed in it. He tells her that the bookshop was the first place in his childhood where he understood that a stranger could be generous without wanting anything in return, and that it shaped every building he had ever tried to protect. They are talking about her father, she realizes, but they are also talking about themselves, about the particular loneliness of people who love things deeply and are afraid they have been doing it wrong. 4 months later, in March 2020, on the day before the world begins to close itself into quarantine and distance, Claire attends the soft opening of the Open Pages Boston Reading Room on Newbury Street. The mural is lit with warm light. There are children sitting on floor cushions with books in their hands. Daniel stands beside her, and his hand finds hers without ceremony, the way that feels not like a beginning but like a continuation of something that was always true. By the time the city reopens fully, a year and a half later, they have worked side by side through 3 more nonprofit renovation projects, and they have moved into an apartment with windows that face east, where the light comes in early and the bookshelves are floor to ceiling and slightly overcrowded. The building on Newbury Street becomes, in the years that follow, a landmark of the neighborhood, the kind of place where children discover that stories have geography and strangers can be kind without reason. Her father's name is on a small brass plate by the entrance. She chose the words herself. He made room. It is the truest thing she knows how to say, and it turns out it is also the best lesson she ever learned from him. Did you enjoy today's story? Stay with me for just a moment. Let me know in the comments, which city are you watching from? Did this message touch you? And if you have ideas for future stories, feel free to share them. Your suggestion could become our next video. Leave a like if this message meant something to you. Subscribe so you don't miss the next videos. If you think someone else would appreciate this message, please share it. And if you'd like to support the channel, take a look at the links in the description. Some are affiliate links, which help us at no extra cost to you. Thank you for being here. See you in the next video.